I think one of the things that's interesting is that if you spend a lot of time in boardrooms like I do, one of the things that I like to do is to quiz a lot of executives. And I say to them, what do you think is going to be the best way forward for your business? And many of them are going to say something really logical and something that you'd expect somebody to say. And they'd say something like, well, the best way forward is for us to decrease costs and to sell more units. And it's a wonderfully logical position to take as an executive. But at that point, I say to them, all the executives that want to reduce costs, please can you tell me what is the cheapest car in the country? What's the cheapest car in South Africa? We have lots of tools for this. We have Google, we've got a whole range of car websites, we've got multiple ways to see this piece of information. Do you know what it is? And inevitably, they'll all look around sheepishly and they, well, have to admit that they have no idea what the cheapest car is. The idea there is to say, even though the costs and economics are an important indicator, they're not the only indicator. Something else is going on in the purchase of cars that is not price first. And so that's something I'd like you to hang on to in your minds as we look at some curious things on the business landscape. I think one of the things that we see is that most people think that the movement in business is predicated on a strong brand. So many of you may know this, but Xerox is one of the strongest brands that you can find in American business. In fact, what you should know, and I'm sure you do know, is that nobody photocopies in America. They're all Xerox. And the brand is so strong that it's synonymous with the action itself. They decided that they wanted to use the brand strength that they had in photocopiers and move adjacent in products and make a personal computer. They had all the know-how, all the capital. They are a very capable company. But when they moved into personal computers, something went very, very wrong. What's interesting is that Hewlett-Packard, another very capable company, had the same thought. They said, well, we have personal computers. We'd like to move into photocopiers. And when they did that, they were also roundly rejected by consumers for their adjacent product. So one of the things that we see here is that it's not capability, it's not capital, it's not size, it's not economics, it's not objective betterness, it's not even need. If it's not all of these things that are driving business, what is? So I'd like you to suspend that question in your mind. And one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of return to my opening gamut and say that whenever you're seeing a business landscape, the winds of change are always blowing. And one of the things that what I mean by that is that let's look at how human beings have acquitted themselves with this idea over time. So this, you'll see, is a sailing ship. And one of the things that used to happen is that this was the primary mode of transportation trade for a very long time. One of the things that would happen is that if you look at old writings and blessings, people would say things like, may the road rise to meet you, may the wind always be at your back. The wind and its position and its direction and its force was such a big thing that it was the metaphor used for blessing. However, one of the things that you start to see is that people couldn't sit and wait and, for the wind to be at their back. And over time, sailing techniques have moved such that there are moves like tacking and a whole range of others that try and move no matter what the direction the wind is facing. In fact, if you look at it, there are a whole range of sailing contests now where people are told in which direction they're going to sail, regardless of the direction of the wind. In fact, if some of you are interested in this, there is something called Sail GP. Just like the Grand Prix that you see for motor cars, Sail GP has a number of hydrofoil boats. They have these little fins that they sail on, and now they have tamed the wind to such a degree that they can go 3 to 4 times the speed of the wind on that day. So imagine that turnaround. Here we used to sit and wait for the wind to be at our backs, and we used to wait for the force to propel us. And now we have so conquered the manipulation of sails and fins such that we can go 3 to 4 times faster than the thing that we used to wait to propel us. But this didn't happen only on water. What happened was this also happened on land. This is the prototype of the Model 1 by Carl Benz. This is the first patent for a motor car. One of the things that I'd like you to see is I'd like you to pay attention to this video to see what car racing was like just a few short decades ago. So one of the things that I'd like you to notice from the visuals of that video was how far that type of car racing has come to what it is that we now see today. In fact, if many of you are car enthusiasts, I suspect some of you like watching Formula One, particularly when Lewis Hamilton is doing well, I'm told. One of the things that we see is that all of these tendencies for cars to flip over and for them to be so unsafe have been taken care of in all of the engineering that is part of the field of aerodynamics. That there are people who have mastered downforce and they've done a whole bunch of wind tunnel tests. And it's part of the way that you can see that there has been a taming of the wind on the ground as well. There are now real conversations to be had about whether or not a Formula One car could drive upside down. It's an interesting, the fact that the conversation happening is stunning, because could you imagine so grand a dominance over downforce that you'd be able to turn a car upside down and drive it onto the ceiling of a wind tunnel in order to demonstrate how far we've come from the video that I've just shown you.